This video is going to cover the differences in the shapes of the aggregate supply curve based on the neoclassical model and the Keynesian model. The neoclassical model refers to kind of the classical idea that government intervention is not necessary in the economy, and so the shapes of their supply curves kind of reflect that idea that the economy will eventually fix itself. And the way that it fixes itself is when price level changes, that's going to affect real wages, and thus nominal wages adjust relatively quickly, or at least adjust in the long run, so that long run equilibrium can be reached without government intervention. So the neoclassical model just simply looks at, we have this vertical LRAS at our potential output. There's some level of production of real output that can be produced, and so that's indicative of the LRAS curve. And then in the short run, the price level does impact production. If the price level rises, production increases because firms are going to find more profit with higher prices. Price level, higher prices, make more money. So in the neoclassical models, we kind of go through a chain of events. The idea is that prices and wages both adjust. So if we start here at an aggregate demand, we're at this idea of full potential, or potential output currently. Make a big dot, make it easy on the grader. If the economy falls into recession, and we'll get into this much more next unit, but I just want you to understand how the neoclassical model kind of works. The economy doesn't need the help of government to fix itself. Instead, what's going to happen is we notice that in the short run, price level is going to fall. So price level falls, and that causes real wages. The idea that your paycheck hasn't changed, but how much does that really buy? So if you're getting paid $1,000 a month and prices fall, you're going to notice that your real wages go up, and you're going to notice that you're going to feel richer without having a bigger paycheck. So in the long run, what's going to happen is nominal wages are going to adjust downwards as producers are going to look at lower prices and say, well, you're going to have to accept a lower wage because I'm receiving less money because the price levels is falling. And as a worker, you're willing to take that because it's like, well, okay, I can, in order to keep my job because there's high unemployment because of the reduced output, that you're willing to take less. And so when there's less wages given, production then can increase, and we get back to this idea of a new long-run equilibrium where SRAS 2 and this aggregate demand curve 2 meet, we reach potential output without the necessity of government intervention. Just the opposite would happen in an inflationary period. The price level would go up, people would feel poorer, so they'd ask for a pay increase. Higher wages lead to less production, and so that would look like this on the graph. Aggregate demand causes that price level to rise, production decreases because of the rise in wages, and so the economy can reach full employment again without government intervention. Keynes, however, refuted this model, and he said there is no way that the economy can self-adjust. And during the Great Depression, he was correct. The model seemingly didn't accurately reflect what was actually happening in the economy. So he postulated and came up with this theory of the Keynesian AS curve to help explain the fact that the classical chain had not happened because prices don't adjust. So one of the keys here is that prices and wages are inflexible, meaning that they aren't going to change. Workers aren't really going to accept lower wages. They'll happily accept higher, but owners won't really want to pay higher wages and are glad to give lower wages, but workers really don't. And then with prices, for the most part, shop owners aren't going to want to lower prices because that's going to mean less revenue, but they're willing to keep them the same, perhaps in a recession. So the idea is, as we move along the curve, as I draw this in, we're going to be looking at these low levels of output. So as GDP is low, so we're going to have high unemployment because those end up being inverse relationship, low GDP, high unemployment. We're going to notice that price level is going to stay the same because shop owners don't really want to lower prices. So the price level isn't going to change at low levels of output until it kind of reaches a point where, okay, we're starting to slope up, we're starting to produce a higher price level and more GDP, and then eventually we kind of hit this idea that there's really some maximum we can't produce beyond. And so that's my AS curve. No need for a long run or short run, that's why I kind of erased that. But this idea that somewhere in the second stage, we reach this potential output. And then, yeah, we can produce a little bit beyond that, but the only thing that's going to happen is inflation. So if we keep producing beyond our potential, we're going to notice that GDP isn't going to rise much more, but we are going to notice inflation, this rise in price level. And then as we fall into recession, the price level is really not going to be affected, which the classical chain breaks down. If the price level never adjusts, then the market cannot correct itself. So as we go through that same kind of problem as we did before, okay, the economy's here, economy falls into recession, and then it falls deeper in recession, let's say depression. From here to here, the price level hasn't adjusted, so the economy cannot fix itself, and thus government intervention is necessary. And that's what we go into in the next unit. So clearly there's some differences in the shape and number of the AS curves between the neoclassical and the Keynesian model, and we'll get more into the shapes and why they're used the way that they are in the next unit when we talk about the policies of classical economics and interventionist policies.